Hello everybody and welcome to my latest movie review where today I review Trainspotting, released in 1996 starring Ewan McGregor, Ewan Bremner, Kelly MacDonald and directed by Danny Boyle. So Trainspotting, the reason I am reviewing this movie is, well, I was actually asked to watch it. I'm studying a film degree at the moment and my tutor actually asked me to watch this and asked us all to watch it. So I thought, well, I may as well talk about it on the channel as well. It gives me an excuse to do another video. So this is a drama movie. It was released in the 90s. And basically the plot is as follows. Mark Renton, deeply immersed in the Edinburgh drug scene, tries to clean up and get out, despite the allure of drugs and the influence of friends. So, Trainspotting. This is a very good film. I really like this film. It's interesting how this film could potentially be perceived in many ways. I think this film is a great example of great storytelling because it has a very simple premise and it has a good plot and it's executed rather well. It's not trying to be dense or overly complicated because it doesn't need to be. The simple fact is, this is a film about a guy who wants to change. He wants to get off drugs. He wants to overcome his addiction. And ultimately, this film is a great example. If you want to become a film writer, it's good for the basis of, basic character drama and basic character arc and storytelling. It's really interesting to see how, because of Mark and his influence with his friends, they're just so addicted to drugs that it's affecting everything around them. And at times the movie gets quite chaotic and quite dark, but that's great because, again, it's illustrating the problems of drugs. I can understand that some critics maybe feel that this film is kind of like a drugs promotion, a drugs endorsement. I wouldn't necessarily say that. It certainly does show a lot of drug use in the film, but it's not trying to promote drugs. It's trying to say the opposite. So I think that criticism is a little bit unfair, but I can see where they're coming from because there's quite a lot of substance abuse. It's really interesting as well how Mark narrates the movie. We obviously see the film through his gaze and we hear his internal monologue and how, in the beginning he gives this speech about how he says, fuck life, I just want to take drugs. Literally, he's clearly got some kind of mental health issue or several mental health issues because he obviously can't cope without drugs. And, he even hides how bad it is from his family as well. So it's not an easy thing for him to deal with. And the whole journey that he goes through during the film is how does he get out of this situation and how does he become a better person? And ultimately, I like that. I really like his character journey. The fact that he goes through a vigorous transformation in order to achieve what he wants. I have to say, the acting is astounding here. Ewan McGregor is absolutely brilliant as this character. He's an absolute arsehole. Like, he's a really nasty piece of work. I think the character, he's interesting because on the one hand, yeah, he's kind of a dick and he's kind of a sleaze and he's just kind of, he doesn't really care, he doesn't care about his life, he doesn't care about anyone else, and he has no principles. He's like, fuck it, I'm going to take drugs because I can. And ultimately, as the film unfolds, he realizes the extent of what he's doing, the fact that he's also encouraging his friends to do it, the fact that he's saying, oh look, this is the good stuff, this is great, it's better than sex, it's better than this, it's better than that. And we gradually see the group of friends kind of turn on each other. They realize that it's not all what it's cracked up to be. There's one character who ends up having severe constipation issues because of Mark's recommendation, and it affects that situation. It also affects somebody's sex life. It also affects Mark in the sense that he unintentionally sleeps with a schoolgirl called Diane, who's played by Kelly MacDonald, who I believe this is like her first acting role. It's weird because she's quite young in this film. I think she must be a teenager, or she must be sort of early 20s, somewhere like that anyway. And of course the film is set in Scotland. The whole cast is Scottish, bar a few English people. Again, it's kind of interesting how it's all set in Edinburgh during a drug scene. I think it's based on a novel. I'm not sure if the novel is based on a true event, but it is kind of interesting to see a drugs-ridden Scotland, kind of seeing a different sort of darker side of Scotland. I have to say though, in real life, Scotland is lovely. I've been there a couple of times. It's great. As for the other characters, Ewan Bremner as Spud, he's great. Kevin McKidd as Tommy, and Jonny Lee Miller as Sick Boy. The four of them, they are fabulous. They are great, and they are great friends. And you can see how they have a great dynamic, although it is tested at various points. There is a particular character who I guess is kind of the antagonistic force, although it's not entirely clear. It's Robert Carlyle as Begbie. He has severe anger problems, severe aggression. He really isn't a nice guy. You know, he's horrible, and the way he deals with situations is that he threatens people. So yeah, and I think over the course of the film you begin to see, as these tragic events unfold, why Mark makes the decision he does at the end to kind of rip off his friends, but he does it to help himself, which again sounds selfish, but ultimately it's a great character moment because he finally realizes, no, I want to stop this. I want to have a normal life. I want to have everything everybody else has. I don't want to do drugs anymore. I mean, he doesn't say those exact words, but that's obviously what you understand at the very end of the film. But he doesn't necessarily leave his friends completely with nothing. Also, shout out to James, Cosmo, and Eileen Nicholas as the parents. They play Mark's parents. There's a really freaky scene where, like, it's kind of like a nightmare scene, I guess. Mark is having some severe, reactions to his illness. I guess it's what people call going cold turkey. I guess that's the expression to use. And he's seeing all these images, like his friends having a go at him, his parents there, his other friend, like a doctor in front of him as well, the baby crawling on the ceiling, and it's all very hellish and nightmarish. And he also sees images of Diane, I think, as well. Various different things. It's quite freaky, but again, you understand that the character is going through his transformation. It's a miracle that his life was saved, really. Also, the film is 90 minutes long. It's paced really, really well, and it's shot very well too. Danny Boyle is a great director, and he clearly had a very interesting vision for the film. Like I say, it's madness, it's chaos, and it's also quite dark in areas. One of the most tragic scenes in this film, which is also probably the darkest scene for me, is when the baby dies. Yeah, one of their friends, Alison, I think, we don't see her too much in the film, but we see her baby dies because of the living conditions that they're in. The baby's not being tended to. Earlier in the film, they're taking drugs and the baby's crawling around and just not being looked after. So clearly it either died of starvation or died of perhaps inhaling some substance. I don't exactly know, or just generally the conditions were rotten. So yeah, it's really horrific seeing the baby like that, and it makes them all emotional. But I think with Mark particularly, even though he's not the father of the baby, it resonates with him more because again, it's a sign for him to go, right, it's time to take action on this. There's also a scene where one of his friends gets arrested, but Mark is offered some leniency because he's on a drugs rehabilitation program. So you can see the guy is desperate. He's so conflicted. He's desperate to get off of this. But he is still an addict, and obviously, as anyone who has an addiction knows, it's not an easy thing to overcome. There are also a few sexual scenes at the start of the film. Again, there's a kind of sleazy side to this film, showing that the drugs kind of mess with their heads, and again, Mark ends up sleeping with Diane, who's a schoolgirl, and then Diane actually starts to fall in love with him and has some feelings for him, which is quite interesting. And Mark has to try to, he realizes the error of his ways. And I think constantly over the film, he is coming to the realization. That's the whole character journey. He's like, no, you're too young to do this. You're too young. She even pops to his house to want to smoke with him and have that. And he's like, no, you're too young. You're too young. But obviously, he does give in eventually. So yeah, Trainspotting. This is a great film. I'd never seen it before. I'd watched it today, and I really, really love it. In terms of problems with the film, the only thing I could say is perhaps there's a little bit of overuse of swearing, but I understand that's kind of what these sort of people do, these drug addicts. I think it's just to highlight how negative the situation is. They're always saying, fuck this, fuck that, but they could have perhaps toned it down for the film, but whatever. It's only a minor gripe. And of course, what can I say? Fantastic cinematography. So I'm going to give Trainspotting an easy 10 out of 10. It's it's a classic. It's an absolute classic, and Danny Boyle is a great director. Probably one of his best films, I would say. I may consider reviewing the sequel at some point. Right now I'm so busy, so I don't know if I have the time. But I thought I'd just talk about this movie here and now. But anyway, thank you very much all for watching this video. What do you think of this film? Please comment down below and let me know. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and stay tuned for more reviews in the future. So until next time, I'm Pajak's Perspective. See ya. Bye for now.